My name is Lee Davis. I'm the executive director, as Jill said, of Oregon State University's Center for the Outdoor Recreation Economy. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about OSU and the work we're doing to support the recreation economy. We're going to specifically talk a little bit about some of our programs and how we're addressing skill gaps for businesses in the recreation economy in particular. And then there'll be a little Q&A at the end, as Jill said. So yeah, do use the chat so that we can answer as many questions as possible. I'm going to move pretty fast, but I believe this is being recorded in case anybody has questions, and you can always contact me or my team at any time at Oregon State University. So before we get too far along, we need to talk a little bit about what the recreation economy is. And most of the people in this room and at this conference are very familiar with the outdoor recreation economy, but we start every presentation with this little diagram that you'll see has land and water and natural resources at the middle and different forms of participation around the center there. And we like to point out that the outdoor recreation economy, this is sort of based on the BEA's analysis of the rec economy, but that the recreation economy includes a variety of private sector jobs, from service providers to tour providers, outfitters, guides, retail and manufacturing jobs. Also, all of the public sector jobs that are here with us today, from local, state, and federal agencies, all the way down to community economic development and county professionals, or county parks and city and state parks, and of course, tribal nations. And then in the nonprofit sector, we've got the community groups, the service corps, and the advocacy and trade organizations like ORR and their members that are here with us today. So there are a number of different kinds of jobs in the outdoor recreation economy. One of the tenets that we have at OSU is that everybody all across this wheel believes that they work in and around the outdoors. And so there is a camaraderie and of purpose with all of these jobs. And that's the thing that we're centered on in our work. The next thing, as we talk about workforce development for the outdoor recreation economy, is to sort of look at it from a supply and demand perspective. On the demand side, we're talking about an economy that pre-COVID was 5.2 million jobs in America, and an industry comprising 2.1% of GDP. Those numbers are so big that it's really kind of difficult to get your mind wrapped around them. Some stats that we use in Oregon are that one in 23 jobs in Oregon is in the recreation economy. And then if you look at the projected job growth in the recreation economy over, say, the next 10 years, and the number of jobs we'll be adding and the number of jobs we'll be filling and replacing, um, it's an economy that if you were to evenly distribute those jobs across the country, it would mean that one kid in every K-12 classroom in America could or should be working in this economy at some point in their career. And on the supply side, we've got millions and millions of people that want to have jobs with purpose, that are tied to their passion for the outdoors and for outdoor activity and for their love of place and community. And all of the jobs that those of us in the room today have are jobs that these people would love to have, and they're living wage jobs in the most part. So the challenge that we face then is, a lot of positive pressure on both sides of this equation, but we don't really have a lot of clear pathways to those new and better jobs. And if anybody's struggling to understand what those pathways look like, if you think about more mature industry sectors like healthcare or engineering, a quote we'll often use is to say, think about if your neighbor's children wanted to be a CNA or a doctor or something like that. And pretty much everybody in the neighborhood knows where they need to go to school, what certificate or degree they need, and how they're going to pursue, a career in that field. We want to get to that place with our sector, and it's going to take a lot of work. So next, I want to talk to you a little bit about OSU. We already should think of ourselves as your College of the Outdoors, basically because we have a lot of degree programs that are aligned with this sector already. First and foremost, we have the College of Forestry, which is ranked #2 in the world, and we have natural resource degrees, sustainability degrees, and environmental science degrees. OSU is also an R1 research university and one of only 2 sea, sun, space, and land grant institutions in the country. We have 3 research vessels in 3 oceans across the world, and the leader of NOAA is a faculty member from Oregon State University as well. So we're really strong in and around natural resources and the environment. And then next, Around experience, we have hospitality management degrees, tourism, recreation, and adventure leadership degrees. We have the Adventure Leadership Institute. And OSU also runs an innovative program in Oregon called Outdoor School that provides a week of STEM training to every fifth and sixth grader in the state. So every fifth and sixth grader spends a week outside doing, science and environmental learning. And then finally, on the product side, with our College of Engineering and our college in Bend, Oregon, we've got merchandising and retail management, material science degrees, strategy, entrepreneurship, and innovation degrees, apparel design, supply chain degrees, and outdoor products degrees, specifically designed for the outdoor recreation economy at our campus in Bend. Because of all of this, OSU in the 20th century in particular felt that they were leaders in helping people get jobs in the outdoors and in and around natural resources. And myself and my colleague Meredith Morris were hired in 2018, basically because the university wanted to be leaders in the 21st century in helping people get jobs in the outdoors. And we know that the highest value use of public lands in America is experiential, not extractive. And as Chief Christensen said just earlier, there's no better way to connect people to our public lands than through outdoor recreation. So the importance of our sector goes far beyond just the dollars and cents and the transactions, but it's meaningful if we're looking at bringing our country together around love of place. So OSU really wants to figure out how to be that leader. And so we were hired, and we spent almost 2 years on an initiative preceding what we're doing now to look into exactly how we could be national leaders in this space. That initiative was called the Outdoor Recreation Economy Initiative, and we're lucky to work with ORR and with a number of partners over the last 2 years on that project. And I'll describe it sort of quickly. The initial mission of that project was to provide accessible lifelong training and support to the recreation economy that accelerates innovation, progress for people, organizations, and communities. Our focus was around workforce needs assessments, so understanding the skill gaps that we're talking about today, standards development, curriculum development, and professional education programs. And we partnered, as I said, with the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable, the National Park Service, the Pacific Northwest Ski Areas Association, REI, and even sort of related or aligned sector representatives like AARP when we were talking about how to make the outdoors accessible to all people, including all ages. Then, through the initiative, we learned quite a bit over those 2 years. And some of the things that are really relevant to our discussion today are the findings. We found that across the recreation economy, there's an urgency for knowledge transfer, meaning that the baby boomer generation is hanging on to jobs, and they're holding, in particular, onto a lot of the specialized or technical jobs. So there's a real need to transfer that knowledge over to the next generation before the baby boomers retire. The in and around technical specialized skills, I'll talk a little bit about a program that we developed in that space that addresses those needs, but it's particularly challenging because kids today are not growing up, using hand tools and working with things on a regular basis. They're working mostly with electronics and information. So it's a steeper learning curve for youth today to learn how to do those jobs. And then generally, there's an increase in expectations for leadership and communications across all job families in the recreation economy. Our approach to our work is to focus on the learner experience. Ideally, we want to create credential experiences that help people get a leg up as they pursue college careers. And we also understand that whenever anybody buys a training program or a degree, or even a non-credit professional education certificate, it comes with a promise of a better career. So we need to make sure that these standards are recognized by industry, and they also blend academic rigor with industry expertise. We developed 2 different training programs to pilot last year, one around technical skills and one around leadership skills. I'm going to share you a little highlight with you in a minute of those. But first, we have an announcement. So last week, Oregon State University decided to formalize our work and officially launched a cross-university center called the Center for the Outdoor Recreation Economy. The Center for the Outdoor Recreation Economy provides research capacity and workforce development solutions that support the outdoor recreation economy in reaching its full potential. And we mean its full social, environmental, and economic potential. Our focus areas are applied research, program development, industry engagement, and coordination. So we have two different programs that I want to quickly highlight. This one's important around the technical skills space. We developed a ski lift technician training because it turns out there are 2,500 ski lifts in North America manufactured by something like 40 different companies, most of which are obsolete. So it's kind of like trying to maintain a garage full of old cars. And the people that are maintaining these ski lifts are aging out and retiring very, very quickly. One ski resort in Oregon lost their entire maintenance and staff in one season, actually. So, and had to quickly replace them. So we developed a level one certificate. The current course is operating right in just a couple of weeks here. And then the other program, I'm going kind of fast because I want to get to Q&A. Is an outdoor industry leadership certificate that we built with the National Park Service. We developed this certificate around their competency standards for leaders in the National Park Service. And that cohort is starting in September. If any of your organizations are interested in sending somebody through this program, it's a great 6-month program that is highly comprehensive. And as Secretary Vilsack said, the students that leave this program definitely understand and appreciate the holistic values the recreation economy provides to our people and our communities. There are options to enroll in just a single initial course and get your certificate eventually, or an online only certificate, or to provide a cohort place-based program as well. And applications are open soon. Final thing that I wanted to mention before we get to Q&A is the concept of a national consortium of universities for the recreation economy. When we were in DC, we were talking to Jess and Lindsay at the roundtable and to the Department of Labor and a variety of senators about how our industry sector could leverage the same kinds of subsidies for workforce that other sectors get. We effectively were told that there were a number of things we had to accomplish before those subsidies would become available. And one of them was that we had to organize ourselves around the relationship between education and industry. So in other words, the higher education institutions that care about or want to work with this economy need to organize, and the industry needs to organize, and we need to be talking together. And so we actually, with funding from the VF Foundation and some others, are working to actually organize this national consortium of universities right now. The consortium will be doing collaborative research, connecting directly with industries, helping to set standards for job families and job categories, assisting member schools in using those standards, and sharing information and resources. And I think at that point, I'm going to stop here and hand it back over to Jill so we can jump into Q&A.
Thanks, Lee. If people have questions, they can pop them into the chat. But I can kind of kick us off here. I work for the National Marine Manufacturers Association. So in the marine space, boat building, obviously we're not unique in this. That we, many industries are seeing a workforce challenge. How do our manufacturers maybe go about reaching out to you guys? You developed the program for the ski lift technicians. We see that, maybe it's the boat dealers or the boat manufacturers. There's obviously a big need for those technical programs, or even, maybe we have some programs scattered throughout the US, but there's far and few places to go. What do we do? How do we come to you? What's the best way to reach out to you guys to kind of maybe develop more, or to get a broader reach?
How do you reach out to OSU or to the people on the call? Sorry.
Yeah, no, to you, and how did you go through the process of developing like the ski technician? Like how does industry really connect with
Okay.
you? Like what do you guys need to kind of help build those things out?
Sure. I mean, the primary thing we need to build a technical program is some sort of standard of quality. In other words, so the National Ski Areas Association had recently published an update to their lift maintenance resource guide. In other words, so the first thing would be, can the subsector we're talking about, boats in this case, come together around standards for what a level 1 or level 2 boat maintenance professional needs to know? And in some sector, it basically sort of comes down to urgency and emergency, basically. If the problem is urgent enough, the manufacturers will worry less about competition and will come together and say, okay, here's what everybody's got to know as a minimum baseline standard. If that standard is developed, then all we need to do is identify some subject matter experts on the industry side. Some of the baby boomers we're talking about that hold these jobs, and and then we bring them in together with professors and faculty from engineering and from sustainability programs and others to make sure that we're building a program that has blended value. But the first thing is really this quality standard. So in some cases, we're working with associations to develop those standards through applied research. In other words, and I won't go into which ones, but basically there's some where they're like, we want to do this and we know we need a standard, but we don't have it. So we have graduate students and faculty come in and help actually develop that standard. And we can do it, we think, somewhere on the order of 10 times faster and cheaper than if the industry association tries to do it on their own, because just because we're focused. So yeah.
Thanks. I'll flip up to Toby's question. Can you tell us a little bit about where your students end up after these programs? What's the general employment rate of students who end up in the outdoor industry? Any trends in challenges to employment that you notice?
So those are sort of two different questions. Um, like in our pilot leadership course, that's a professional and continuing education program. So most of the people in the leadership course already have jobs, and we know that one of the 20 students in the initial cohort got a new job through the cohort because of relationships and networking and skills development. And we also know that some of the people in the cohort were able to up-level their jobs, either through title changes or through discussions with their supervisors. So we got really good feedback on that program. And then with the technical training program, again, um, those students actually were subsidized by their employers. So the ski resorts are so concerned about getting people into these jobs that they're identifying, young, promising candidates and putting them in this class and paying for it. So the jobs are basically guaranteed. And we also know the ski industry is already talking about how certificate attainment needs to result in a higher wage for those people. So those kinds of conversations are happening as well. And then, I mean, the other side of the question around difficulty in getting jobs in the outdoor industry sort of comes down to in general, there's two issues. There's the hyper networked effect in our industry, where you kind of have to know people to get a job. Which we actually think the Bridge project that I'm on the advisory council for is going to be a really powerful player in changing. And then the other one is something in workforce development that we call a spatial problem, which is where the people that want the jobs just simply aren't in the right places to get the jobs. Like most of the jobs in RV maintenance and building are in Indiana, and most of the boat building jobs are in New England or Florida or et cetera. So that's a spatial problem, and that's something we need to work at in a different front. So.
Thanks. Moving on to the next question. What do you see for the future of careers in non-formal and informal education, specifically natural resource interpretation at outdoor recreation venues?
Future of non-formal and informal education. So we do believe that there's a lot of opportunity for people to move from other sectors into this sector through getting non-credit certificates in recreation economy fields. And so these are the jobs you're describing there, are what we would call specialized or technical skill jobs. In other words, they're jobs where you have to have a specific set of expertise to do the job. And so the development of skill-based programs for those jobs would enable somebody that's maybe sick of working in accounting or in legal or something like that to go do something that is related to their passion. And I think that with leaders like Secretary Vilsack and Chief Christensen, there should be, a surge in the agencies and the park providers and et cetera, and even concessionaires wanting to hire people that understand the values of our economy.
Then one more question, I think, before we'll flip into maybe talking about the consortium.
Mhm.
But what steps are you guys taking to ensure diversity, equity, and inclusion in the student body and certificate programs?
We're providing scholarship programs, so we're actually, we're constantly fundraising, but right now we're actively fundraising to support scholarships to enable all people to access our programs. In some cases, like in the in the ski course, the volume of applicants is just quickly filling the courses, and so that's a little bit of a challenge that we're not sure how to address, other than talking with the ski lift maintenance supervisors and their employers. But generally, the answer to addressing diversity in this case is to minimize barriers to access as much as possible. And scholarships, we think, do a reasonably good job of that.
Thanks. Moving into the consortium, we've got a couple questions. One was, do we have a list of universities in the consortium that can be shared, or?
We've reached out right now. So the consortium doesn't technically exist yet. The first step in the process is simply outreach and engagement. And actually, in terms of a DEI lens on this, we're not only reaching out to the universities that are strongly investing in this space, like West Virginia and CU Boulder and OSU and Utah, et cetera. We're also reaching out to universities that have star faculty that are doing really unique work in and around sustainability or diversity or climate, and we're also working on inviting tribal universities and Hispanic serving institutions and HBCUs into the mix. So right now we're in the outreach and engagement phase, and there are no barriers really to how we're approaching that. And we hope sometime later this year to do an initial convening, and that the consortium would be formally organizing itself sometime next year.
That's really great. And I think, has there been any activity in New England? I think we mostly addressed Chris's question, but I know Chris asked about New England a little bit too.
Um, so I believe we talked to somebody, so a university in New Hampshire. Is that? I'm not sure if that's exactly what the question is. But yeah, we are reaching out to universities in every state in the country. So
Great. And then pivoting a little bit, what advice would you give to any of us who want to encourage our universities to develop programs specific to the outdoor economy, or maybe even to get involved with the consortium? Like, how
um,
can we be better advocates for you guys, or help connecting?
Yeah, I mean, if you live or work in a state that already has an Office of Outdoor Recreation in your state, actually, like Jill, you could even talk about your work here. Talking to that person first is really important, because they're sort of the coordinating advocate in your state to make sure that your state's agencies and universities and legislators are all recognizing the importance of this sector. So we always want to encourage people to make sure you're talking to that person. Separately from that, the identification of faculty members that are passionate about or working in and around this space, and alerting them to the work we're doing and connecting them to us would be fantastic. So
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, we've got 17 different states with offices of outdoor recreation across the country. And there are, gosh, I mean, there are so many states right now that are even just having conversations. I know the South has a lot of different states where we really haven't seen an interest before. So definitely get connected to Lee or to Outdoor Recreation Roundtable, and we can always help kind of push you to those offices as well. So we've got like 1 to 5 minutes here as the session is wrapping. I see one other question we haven't addressed. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Lee, the next question is going to be, is there any discussion with DOI or Forest Service about relaxing or altering federal hiring policies to open more pathways to jobs within federal agencies?
So I think I mentioned a minute ago that I was on the advisory board of something called the Bridge Project, and we're going to be regrouping here in a minute with Angela, who was one of the leaders of that project. One of the other leaders of the project was a friend of many of ours named Merrill Harrell, and Merrill has recently been appointed the Undersecretary for Natural Resources and the Environment in the Department of Agriculture, which oversees the United States Forest Service. And so the person who is running, who sort of founded and ran the Bridge Project, that's all about increasing access to federal jobs in the agencies for underserved communities, is now overseeing the entire agency. So we're really optimistic that good policy decisions as you're discussing there, Lee, would start to happen. So.
All right. Any Lee, any final thoughts that you want to leave us with today?
I mean, the self-serving thought is if your organization has somebody that you think could be a great leader, for the future of the recreation economy, please do reach out to us, and talk to us about the leadership certificate. If your organization wants to support scholarships, please let us know, because those things really do help. And then if you work for a major agency like the Forest Service, or the BLM or the Fish and Wildlife Service. We would love to engage you in the further design and iteration of these programs. We've had a lot of success in DOI and with National Park Service at expanding the leadership program, and want to move it out to other agencies and other industries as well. So.
Thanks. We got one more question, and because it's Brad Garman and the Michigan Outdoor Rec Office is one of my favorites. I can say that because it's in the Midwest. Brad's question is defining the outdoor industry is a real challenge. Can you talk about how an assembly line worker in Michigan can be made to feel more a part of the outdoor recreation community?
I think it's primarily about organized industry and agency communication. So the first thing is for, if you remember that wheel diagram I showed in the beginning that said, everybody in this wheel in their private sector, nonprofit, and public sector feels like they have a job in the outdoors. So, working with the roundtable and working with our agencies to start to promote the idea that the recreation economy is inclusive of all of these jobs is really important. And then, what we're trying to achieve is effectively what NASA was able to achieve in and around jobs related to science. So, you've got a situation where high school kids are wearing a federal agency logo on their shirt because it's cool, like NASA is a federal agency. That's not happening for the other agencies yet, but I think it could for the Forest Service, it could for the National Park Service, and yeah, the wheel diagram is available on our website actually. So, and if you look at my speaker profile, you should be able to hop to our website. But what we want is for in the way that NASA was able to sort of broadly promote jobs in and around science, technology, and engineering. We believe that organizations in the recreation economy, like the Roundtable and the agencies, can collaborate to start to promote jobs in the outdoors in that same way. And as long as those promotions include not just pictures of people participating in the outdoors, but people working in the real living wage jobs that make this economy happen, that what you're talking about will occur.
Thanks. And then one last, could you share, are you able to pull up the wheel again one more time?
I can. Yeah, let me see if I can find it. So, oh, my PowerPoint died. Let's see.
But yeah, I just want to say thank you. I mean, I think this has been really informative for myself and for other people on the line, and you guys are doing incredible work that is really very much needed. And I think just to see the progress over the last couple of years that I've been involved in the industry is really incredible. So thank you for all that you guys are doing.
Yeah,
Um,